before I walk under this, I want to make sure it's safe. You know what? Walk around it. I'm not messing around. So, yeah, and it was pretty rough terrain like this, depending on where you're at. A lot of cliffs, not so much mountain slopes. There'd just be drop-offs. So, you know, I'm not a greenhorn, but I'm not one of these guys who trailblaze, bushwhack, and live out here for a long time on their own. Could I? Yeah, if I had a friend. You know, if Alex was out here with me or something, we could do it. You'd have to import your food, because I don't believe that my hunting skills will be able to supply me with food or anything, and there's not food for gathering. At least not yet. I don't know. So, all right, let me check my map. Means I have to put down my snowball. Those are quaking aspen, if you were wondering. That's what that forest is that I was talking about. Okay, so yeah, I do just continue up here. Done 2.2 miles. I think it's like 3.2, so I got another mile. We've gained almost 1,300 feet. I won't have you on for the hike back, just because I won't have the battery life for it. Just imagine everything in reverse. I'll just rewind it for you and just play it that way. How about that? Man, it's really impressive. This guy's walking an entire trail backwards. So, looks like I go this way because that creek bed's overgrown. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not really marked out here. So the All Trails app is really helpful. I just thought about something. I normally hike with this backpack, but with this new job and being out in the desert, kind of turned this into a get-home bag. I don't have a first aid kit and crap in it right now. So if I were to get really banged up, oh, I'd be screwed. Look at this. That's a caterpillar. He is alive. I thought he was dead. It's so cold, they're falling off the trees. I thought these were twigs. That's a caterpillar. Sorry, guy. You're gonna be bird food, I'm afraid. Yeah, there's another one. Huh. Yeah, it kind of gives you perspective how quickly this place snapped. As I was saying, it's been in the 50s, 60s, 70s on and off. There'd be cold mornings where it's in the 30s and stuff, but this has been a pretty good snow. And so these trees have the beginnings of, you know, green, you know, leaves, and it's just sprouting and stuff. You have flowers and stuff, what look like kind of like tulips or something growing. And then this cold snap happened. And that's not out of the ordinary in the mountains, but I mean, look, you got those flowers growing and you got F-35s flying, and no, you can't see them. They're over the cloud coverage, but it's daily here. You get to see them just circling around. They're typically about 3 or 4 at a time. Anyway, so yeah, all this growth, I mean, maybe it makes it, or it's gonna all die, and then the later growth will kick up and catch up. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. When I was in Ohio, I learned a lot of plants, memorized them and stuff. Stuff that would be edible, or just stuff that was pretty, stuff that was medicinal. Never bothered with mushrooms because they say that's a real crapshoot and you can die. I should probably learn here. Some of my favorite wildflowers, they look very similar, so it shows you, is Virginia bluebells. Look at that. And Mertensia, myrrh like Merlin, Tensia. They grow in like a kind of a woody section like this, where the canopy would block a lot of sunlight, but still enough for them to grow. And with that like shaded nature to it, these blue flowers look like they glow in the dark, almost like Avatar or something. You know, the blue people Avatar, not, you know, Aang the Last Airbender. And I just thought it was so pretty. So yeah, look at these mountains. Frickin' pretty. I think you guys can see it. I have you on the chest rig, so I'm just like pointing the chest rig at it. Real pretty. Let's keep going. Got to get to the end of the trail before you die. So, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad I did it. I think this is a good idea. Maybe people watch it. I don't know. As I said, like this channel, it's just me and my thoughts. Oh, look at those little wildflowers. Those are pretty. Let's check this out. See that? That's pretty. They're already rolling up though because of the cold. It's a shame. Can you see it? Did you see it? See? Yeah. All right. So, yeah, it's just me and my thoughts. I read a bit. I don't know about you, but in high school and college, it was becoming more and more obvious that you're being taught everything with an agenda. Even in high school, I came from a school that was really poor. So my history textbooks, for instance, were from the 70s. And I always give this example where the text was a lot smaller, vocabulary was a lot more refined and more complicated. And then, or less photos. And then we got grant money from the state of Ohio for new books. And then a lot bigger pictures, a lot bigger text, worse vocabulary. It was dumbed down quite a bit, and it had an agenda. You could read it and tell there's a viewpoint. It was like reading someone's book report on history from their own perspective almost. So I've kind of had this goal where I would read the documents of the founding fathers, because that's the most important thing for me besides, you know, faith, is reading historical text directly from the writer's point of view, rather than, you know, you read about the Magna Carta, you read about our founding fathers and what they thought, but it's through someone else's book report essentially. their own view. You know, the publisher, the editor of these textbooks, they have multiple authors writing them a lot of times. They have their own agenda, their own perspective, and they speak of it with authority. And they don't have authority. A lot of the stuff they write about, they project and correct incorrectly people's perspectives from the past as if, you know, they are all-knowing and that they are correct. So I started reading. First thing I read was the Federalist Papers, because Constitution is, I think, a perfect document. And if you are to read it and interpret it and read Federalist Papers, and I did a bit of the Anti-Federalist, but it's really just them just saying, we object to this point, this point, this point. It wasn't really a breakthrough of thought and enlightenment. It's really just, hey, we disagree with you about federal power. That was really the big thing about anti-federalists. Anyway, founding fathers really give good explanation, a good example in Federalist Papers about why they are doing things the way they are. And they source stuff from ancient Greece and Rome, the old republics, and talk about their experiments with democracy or constitutional governments and why they are thinking a certain way. They're citing like you should when you write your own college paper, but our textbooks really, I feel like, are written to a lesser bar than we write our own freaking papers anymore. So anyway, I read that. I've read a couple snippets, like there was like George Washington's Library.org or something like that, where I read, because Second Amendment is huge for me. I think that is what has been holding back tyranny for so long. I think it's a huge responsibility to give the citizens, just like voting is. And you need an intelligent populace and responsible, well-raised populace for it to be successful and not just be, chaos. And we've been successful with that. I think this next generation and the next 80 years, we have to be a lot more conscientious about how we educate our children and the future generations, because we've been allowing public education to raise our children, essentially, and those days are gone. If you do that now, it's gonna be really bad. So anyway, I think it's great. I really support it. And I was reading a lot of people saying, Washington didn't want the militia. He didn't want Minutemen. He didn't want Second Amendment from people with a clear bias. I mean, when they come out and say that, it's like, okay, challenge accepted. Let me find founding documents, diaries, letters, things that they write to each other. Because they would write a lot of letters to each other, and we have a lot of those letters still. So I read them, and Washington's biggest criticism for the militia was that, if you've ever watched The Patriot, it was actually pretty good with this depiction. They weren't, regulated. What is, for instance, the Bill of Rights, Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary for this security of a free state, that other people keep and bear arms should not be infringed. By regulated, they don't mean like, EPA regulation or anything. They mean well-regulated means like to be a British regular or an American military army regular is like well-trained, always doing drills. So his thing was they weren't well-trained and they were retreating a lot. Then they started to realize how to use them better, and that is to kind of supplement and free up a lot of jobs for the regular military so they can wage war, or to just conduct kind of guerrilla warfare. And then it was successful. And so really, when people give Second Amendment people a hard time about training, wearing tactical gear, they're actually flying in the face of what the founders said, because they wanted us to be kind of like, you know, little soldiers, but we were responsible for our own training, because they didn't want, for instance, a lot of people say, well, the new militia is the National Guard. That is not true. The National Guard Act in 1930 or 1939, I forget what it was, made that so. But they never wanted states to have their own standing militaries, because then it would be state versus state. And that was the whole problem with like Articles of Confederation and anti-federalist movement, was that the big powerful states like Pennsylvania or Georgia could just walk over everyone else's rights and take their land or whatever. And then it would just be chaos. So they wanted the people to be well trained, but they had to be responsible for themselves and source their own stuff themselves. That way they have autonomy from their government. That's my little rant. So anyway, I read that. I think I'm off trail. Nope, I just go up the creek bed, it looks like. I'm at 1,500 feet. All right. So anyway, there was that. I read Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Oh, it's good. It's a quick read. It was good. I've also read, I think it's important to understand your enemy. And my bias is very clear. I'm pro-democracy, republic, constitution. And so I read Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. And that was after I read the Federalist Papers. And I'll tell you what, it is just plainly obvious that our founders, if they were alive at the same time as Marx,